Hello, hello. Alright, so we're going to talk about epoxy. There are several brands, several manufacturers. You can use different types of things for epoxy. And you will get different results with all of them, just about. If somebody's discussing epoxy, listen to them. You might learn something, you might not. You might try a different brand and get better results. First thing we're going to do is go over the rod that we tested. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different just little sections. I think it's 5 different brands total, and one brand that has a high build and a light build on it. We did this how long ago?
I think it was in August.
It was sometime around August, September, back when it was still hot. Well, it was kind of hot today, but
I mean, it's been sitting outside for 4 or 5 months now.
yeah. It's been outside, it's been beaten up. It has been used as a whacking tool by our 1.5-year-old almost.
Yeah.
It's seen its abuse. It's just sat outside in the rain, in the snow, in the ice, the heat, sun, wind, everything you could imagine. The first one that we did was this one. Now, you're probably going to get different results depending on where you're at. That's why we always say test whatever epoxy you're using. That one is aft coat. Let's see if we can get it to focus.
That was the one that we had used predominantly in the past. And we noticed on one rod we built last year that the white thread was yellowing extremely bad. And it kind of was driving me nuts. So we decided to go ahead and test epoxies that we had gathered and bought to try to see which ones didn't yellow as quickly.
There's 2 wraps that are the same epoxy. This one had acetone,
Yeah.
and this one didn't. Those pretty much gave about the same effects. The one without acetone is actually a little bit yellower, but it's very slight. This is also just one layer of size A, just quickly put on there under power. There's spots that aren't packed, there's spots that need work, but it was NCP, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, NCP packed bay thread in white size A, and it was just literally thrown down. So don't judge the thread work. This was simply for epoxy.
And it's only 1 coat of epoxy on it as well.
Yeah.
Normally
one decent coat.
You would have 3 or 2 or 3 depending on how you do it, but
Some people do 1.
yeah.
The next one that we did is Pro Coat. It's fairly clear. There's a few yellow spots showing up where there's a little discoloration. I don't know if y'all can really see it on there. You can kind of see it.
It just looks dirty.
But once again, acetone, no acetone. The next one is Threadmaster. One on your right, acetone, no acetone. So on this one, it's actually a little yellow, or more cloudy, or whatever color you want to call it, with the acetone, whereas the F coat was the opposite. Next this is a brand called Classic Coat. Acetone, no acetone. And actually the one with acetone is a little bit discolored at this point. And then the next one that we did is D2. Acetone, no acetone. And as you can kind of see, it's pretty discolored at this point. Visibly discolored. Come on, focus on it. It's not happening. That one I was actually shocked by.
Yeah, a lot of people have amazing results with D2 and we were actually kind of saddened that our test results made it look like that, but and on the way that we mix it and how we apply it
and the environment we're in, that's what happened.
It doesn't like us. So, don't let that deter you.
Because I've seen guys work that use D2 and it's been used, and it's not like that.
I know Bill Mansell loves it. Does Arturo use it too?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure Arturo
uses it. A bunch of those Texas guys use it.
It's great. I mean, don't let what happens in our temperature and stuff deter you from trying something. But
pretty sure Storm uses it too.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that use it.
The next one is Super Coat. Super Coat is the light build formula of Classic Coat. Once again, acetone, no acetone. And from what I can tell, that's probably actual dirt that's on there.
Yeah, there's some mud on there from Lincoln throwing it on the ground.
Hector uses it. And it's got a little discoloration. It's more so in the one without acetone. And we did not test Flex Coat, because that's what I started on, and there's a reason I switched. It yellows for me. Tremendously yellows for me. I just chose not to test it because I've seen the results of what happens when I use it. So, but like we said, don't let it deter you. If you're having issues with an epoxy, try a different one. Try a different way to apply it. Try a different way to mix it. Just keep testing it. Eventually, you'll find one that works the best for you and how you need to do it. Some of them, like Aft Coat for us, has a 30-minute pot life.
Yeah, we love it. We love Aft Coat.
Aft Coat will sit here on the table doing decorative wraps for 30 minutes for us and not be clumpy and stringy and all that.
Yeah.
Whereas you go to Classic Coat, you might get 10 minutes before you have to mix up more.
With Threadmaster, it also it set up really fast. I actually was using Threadmaster on repairs
because it set up so fast for us.
And it's just in how we apply it.
We do not use an epoxy mixer.
Nope.
We mix everything with the back end of the brush that we're using. And Billy's recipe, Hector, is half and half, as far as I know. I'm pretty sure he does half Threadmaster, half Pro Coat, or something like that. And then frosts it like frothy, bubbles everywhere, tinfoil, heat, apply. And it works well for him. I tried it, not for me. Now we're on to, what was this one? This one is CP. How we apply CP, how many coats we do. And Hector, that's exactly right. Different altitudes are going to affect epoxy. Different temperatures, different humidities.
Which one is the one that if you're high altitude?
Classic coat.
Classic coat.
If you live in the mountains, don't. I've been told you shouldn't use classic coat because it will not set up right because of the altitude.
Because it was made at sea level. So.
I mean, you can feel free to try it and let us know if it works, but.
Alright, so somebody brought up CP earlier, and I figured I'm in stages with all different rods, so might as well.
Helps us get stuff done.
Yeah.
And teach y'all how we do it.
Just the slower version of how we do it. Okay, so this is the third and final coat for this rod. I always put 3 coats on.
Take the stand.
Move it closer.
Yeah, so you can do it faster.
You probably could put it on the top of that box.
Yeah.
That'll get a better visual. Hold on.
Oh, please, moving stands.
Camera readjustment.
Zoom out.
I'm gonna let you take care of it. Okay, so final coat of CP on this wrap. I still, with this one, was packing.
10 minutes ago?
I was packing 10 minutes ago, and I've seen one that's moved on me again. I'm telling you, this last pass is just making me go crazy. Alright.
Try it out.
Yeah. Alright. Well, I use Chromasil. I was told it's the second best on the market by one of the legends in rod building. Therefore, I believe it.
We've tried others. Don't take that the wrong way.
Yeah.
We've tried others, and Chromasil worked best for us. It did the best. It holds the color the best.
I've never had issues with fish eyes or anything like that, so I'm not gonna step out of my comfort zone. I know what it does and know exactly what to expect. When I mix it up, I literally take the other. I use disposable brushes too, by the way. I take the other and I just kind of do a gentle stir.
Ron, to answer your question, yes, they're still movable to a point. You're not going to be able to pack down, really?
Oh, with the wrap?
Yeah.
At this point, you can't. I mean, you can move threads.
You can't relocate them, though.
But you can't, like, if you've got a thread that's this far away from another one, you're going to have, whoops, sorry, it blurred on you because my hand got in the way. If this thread was poking out here where my tool's at, and you were trying to get it in, unless you paid attention to it and did it on every pass, you're not going to be able to shift thread. And you really don't want to move it around too much. Let's see, if you guys, can you guys see that itty bitty little gap right there?
Yep.
If you move it too much, this is basically glue that you're putting on here. You'll start getting white residue that will pop up. and you really don't want that because it'll show up in the wrap in the epoxy. So this is just trying to, you saw what I was moving. I'm trying to fine tune that last pass that I did, and it's just, this one's just being a butt. So at this point, now that I'm looking at it, I said, okay, I think I got them all, and I feel like they've moved. Ah! They're also very stretchable at this stage. You don't want to do that.
I don't even think they saw that.
Okay, I hope they didn't. I had a thread. This thread came all the way backwards. It moved. So, on to the fun stuff. When I apply, I put it on power. Those of you that are hand wrapping, I don't know what would be the best, you know, you guys can figure out what would be the best way for you to do it. But this is just a thin coat. With CP, you can brush it sideways. It's no big deal. But I just cover it. Now, I follow the directions for the most part with this stuff. It tells you to let it dry at least with an hour in between coats, and the last coat that you do to leave it overnight, basically. I do that. I won't put epoxy on this tonight. This is going to dry, and I'll be able to put epoxy on it. I'm probably not going to do it in the morning. I'll probably do it tomorrow night, just to give it a little bit of extra time to dry. And if I need to poke a thread again, Lord help me if I do. I tell you, the first time I used CP, I freaked out putting this on there. I was like, oh my god, it turned colors, it ruined it. This is like, give it time.
And Ron, it does hold the threads in place to keep them from moving.
Yeah, like it's glue.
But you can move them.
You can shift them, but you can't be trying to like pack the entire wrap after you CP. Don't try to do that. It won't work. But
and Bobby, to answer your question, there's one usually every Friday unless we take a vacation. Then y'all are SOL.
Or we've got a scheduling drama and we move it to another day.
Yeah.
But we usually let you know ahead of time.
There's usually some random ones on the weekends. Maybe one during the middle of the day in the week. Those aren't really scheduled.
No.
But we try to do one a week, guaranteed.
They're usually not, they're focused on whatever we're working on at the time. They're not really like legit videos.
If we can incorporate something we're working on, we usually do it.
And once I apply it, I don't wipe it off because I do thin coat. And I leave it turning until it starts to dry. And you'll know it's drying whenever it starts to turn clear again. Threads will soak it back up. I'm putting it in the wrong one. Oh, you gotta move.
No, sorry. Sorry, I gotta move stands again.
Ooh, no. Alright, finally gonna put epoxy on this.
I bet she's at work.
Yeah, she'd probably freak out doing this. Is that one?
Hold on.
Oh.
Watch out.
Make sure it don't hit.
Take that stand, put it right here. You're gonna have to put tape on this thing.
On what?
Take the dust off.
Put dust on it. Whoop.
He's breaking stuff.
We really got to update these things.
Yeah.
Like.
No.
Be for real. Alright. So, I'm going to put half coat on this one tonight. It's the one we're going to use. Like I said, it's one of my favorite epoxies. I've used it for so long, I know what I can do with it. And obviously, I don't want to show me doing something stupid with another epoxy. So, we're gonna go back to my comfort. Okay.
Perfect.
Alright. You're probably going to have to pick that up just so they can
I am.
see. So this one's had 3 coats of CP on it, and the stars were actually applied with CP as well. We do all kinds of fun little things with CP. We just took a little bit of doing to do that. It's how you put, if anybody's interested in feather inlays, that's how you do feather inlays, is with CP. Snake skin as well.
It's the easiest way, probably.
Yeah. I'm sure there's other ways, but... Alright, you ready?
Yep.
Alright. We moved everything over here. Typically it's mixed over there on our other bench, just for sake of the video and not making you guys get sick. We haven't got pumps yet, but we do use syringes, and guess where that one came from?
I'll give you a hint. They're free.
You can ask for them at the
Pharmacy.
So, and it goes all the way to 10 milliliters. So, alright. This size wrap, because I'm not doing guides anymore, I'm just going to do a 3 in 3 batch just to make sure I have enough for the star area on this one can get a little tricky.
And no, Ron, those aren't decals. They're little tiny glitter stars that we put on top of the wrap.
That's 3 of the resin. Now, obviously, you don't have to use gloves when you mix up epoxy. I got in this habit because once I quit my full-time job to stay home, take care of Link, and work here all the time, I had to be running in and out to get him, or I had to pick him up while he was out here with me. So I got in the habit of using gloves. Easy, quick cleanup. Alright, and then the hardener. Still works really good.
Especially on black.
Yeah. It doesn't show up darker. Actually, in the rod that he was going over earlier, the last one, the super coat, was actually sent to us, and we kind of freaked out.
Because it's red.
It's obviously turned. And
I'm going to set you guys up here for a minute.
yeah, he's going to go show you what it looks like. And we thought, there's no way this is going to look good. So we decided to test it. It's red. We were worried it was going to darken the wrap, but that was actually one of the few that was pretty white still from the test.
Yeah, there's no telling what it will do a year from now.
Oh yeah, we have no idea, but
Because that rod's going to get abused till it can't.
all right. Can you put these back over there?
Mm-hmm.
And there's these. couple lights off. Alright, so we've just dumped those in there, and this is the first coat going on. We put a little bit of acetone in it. That's a personal choice. We like the results. We do it on the first coat only.
Ron, to answer your question, some people do use CP on decals, especially when they have issues with the corners coming up. The ones we use, we've never had an issue, so I can't tell you how to do it, how it works.
Alright, I pulled enough in the syringe that I can control it. But what I'm going to do count the drops. That was not a drop. That's what that should have been. I'm going to assume that was 6 because it shot out a little bit extra in the beginning. But we usually just put about a drop per milliliter. I guess if you want to make a rule of it. Alright. Good old fashioned. I use the back. And I'm not. I stir. Used to use that mixer when we were at the other place.
Acetone thins the epoxy, Bobby. It makes it a lot more fluid to work with.
Slows down the cure time just a tiny bit.
Just a little.
Just a tiny bit. Tiny bit.
For us.
Now, this is a fancy low heat gun compared to our other one.
Yeah.
So on setting 1, that's only 120 degrees. So it's not so hot it's going to melt the cup. So I can hold it in there just a little bit longer. I do just a tiny bit of that. I have started using this little thing. What is it called?
Just a full cup. That's what I call it.
I don't know. But
Full tin.
decided to try it. I actually like it. You can do the same thing with aluminum foil though. My other heat gun, I couldn't have done that long. Mm-hmm. It's just not as hot. Take it up to the second level, it's 460 degrees, which pops those bubbles pretty fast.
It'll also make that pan really hot if you hold it there.
For too long, yeah. Alright. There are a few tiny little bubbles in there still. Let's see if I can. I don't know if you guys can see them or not. It doesn't look like you can. But I pour it back into the other cup. I don't like pulling the epoxy out of this one for some reason. It drives me nuts. Got accustomed to doing it a certain way. Okay. Where's the tape at on that? It's been sitting without a...
Don't let it pull stars off.
It's been sitting out here. It hasn't been epoxied, and it's picked up just a little bit of dust. All gone. Okay. Now, first coat with me, my only goal is to saturate the threads. I'm not looking to do a thick coat at all. And the only reason why I started doing it that way, because I used to try to get the least amount of epoxy coats as possible. So I tried to do everything in like 2 coats or 3 coats, and epoxy was just terrible, and started trying to thin the coats a little bit, and I got better results. We have...
Yes, I'm getting now.
Mike, I can't have that thing jingling the whole time.
Jingle, 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 jingling, jingling.
Jagga, jagga. Thank you, sir.
Then it was quiet.
No more jang jang. Alright. And away we go. Now, this wrap in particular is going to be a little bit different because it has so many different levels in it. The stars are higher than the wrap thread, and it's going to take quite a few coats. The next couple of coats will not have acetone in them. We figured out if you put acetone in every coat, the epoxy can still be dented with a fingernail a year later. The first time I did this wrap, I had to actually rebuild another rod. This is for my sister-in-law, Michaela. And
because hers got stolen. If you ever see a rod like this one, let us know.
Somebody stole it out of their
storage down at the beach.
Yep. Alright.
You're not going to do the tie off?
Not yet. Because I still got to see what's going to happen with that guide rope.
Okay.
So, alright. Slow it down. Now I'm going back to see where I'm missing epoxy. Got a drama right there. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why I can brush sideways You might hear some people say you can't do that because it creates more bubbles, and it's true, it does. But the thinner your coat, the less the air has to travel in order to escape and pop. And once I get done with this, I'll end up actually turning Power Wrapper on and kind of flinging it for just a little bit, and then I'll put it to turn, and I'll come back and check 10-15 minutes to make sure no new bubbles have popped up. Alright. Where's the straw?
Straw?
Mm-hmm.
That's your son.
Honey, it's down there. Can you get it? Oh, it's right there. Thanks. And then, you know, I use a straw to pop my bubbles. And I don't put heat on it again. Because I used heat in the beginning. So I don't really want to heat it again, because that's kind of cooking it, per se. And all I'm doing is blowing hot air, kind of like you would fog up a window. And that immediately pops any micro bubbles that have popped up. Oh, hey. Come here.
Hi, Al. How long's the minimum and maximum between thin coats versus long coats or thick coats? Long coats. Must be thinking about what day it is.
You're silly. When I do my coats this way, that I just showed you guys, I wait 24 hours in between coats, at the minimum.
Sometimes it's 3 days.
Yeah, it kind of depends. But, you know, if I had spare time, I'd let it dry for 24 hours and then pick it up, put another coat on it. You can do it as soon as it dries. There's no reason to wait, really. It just kind of depends on what you prefer to do.
Mm-hmm.
I usually try to wait for the first coat to completely dry, so that if there are any raised, like little knots that come from thread that gets frayed during the packing process, you can take a razor blade and slice those off. And then your next coat will completely hide that there was any issue there to begin with. So,
Well, we don't wear a mask for epoxy. Said he has to wear one because he starts feeling sick.
yeah, I'm a little weird. I like the smell of it. Especially when we mix the acetone in it. But I don't go huffing it though. I'm just... Alright, so let's see. Any bubbles pop up? It's really not that bad. Usually on this wrap, the stars is where I get the most bubbles because of the difference in height. Dang. That's the only thing about epoxy.
What?
You put epoxy on thread, it magnifies flaws immediately.
Where?
It's down here.
Oh.
One little
She's
thread.
nitpicky,
I'm
too,
very
by the way.
nitpicky. This is what I'm seeing. Let me see it.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Oops, I'm sorry.
I don't know if I can with all the glare.
Barely shows up. Take that light away. It barely shows up. Put it
Wow.
back.
Wow, we gotta keep the
Barely.
rod turning.
Barely shows up. Really.
But that's what we do. I don't know about heavy coats. I would just... I mean, when we did what? Oh yeah, he's my little mascot.
What's up, buddy?
He's in here every day. There's a little brown lizard that lives in the shop with us.
He don't mess with nothing.
Nope,
But
he just...
there's less bugs, so he can stay. You chill, bud.
The heavier coats, you know, just... If you get great results that way, then, you know, I'd wait at least 24 hours still, just to make sure it was cured.
And, Jake, we don't heat up the straw. We're blowing hot air in the straw. You're not trying to blow the door down, but you're blowing hard enough that the air moves. But you're blowing as hot air as possible.
It's like fogging up a window to write on it.
Yeah.
Just make sure you don't get spit on the wrap.
It will condensate, and it will drip.
So every once in a while, you'll have to knock it out. Because you don't want spit in the wrap. It's happened. It's not fun trying to get that cleaned up.
It goes everywhere.
It's not
Water
fun.
and epoxy don't mix.
But sometimes, I guess you might have seen me blowing really hard. It was in an area that there was a lot of microbubbles that were focused around a star. So I was trying to move those, thin out that area a little bit so the bubbles would pop. Yes, exactly like that, Walt. There's no reason why you can't use a heat gun again. Some people do, and you know, it helps them. But one of the reasons why we don't do it, you see, this is dirt. This is dirt. When you take that heat gun, you blow straight down, you're blowing all that dust right up into the wrap.
Even if you blow the other way, it can come circulating around.
You can do it. You usually can get decent results blowing sideways, but if you're blowing into a wall, like I see a lot of people's wrappers are set up, it's going to bounce back to you. Our setup, it's in the middle of the room, so it just kind of blows across the edge. There's nothing to keep it, to bounce it back at you. So we don't, if we do decide to use a heat gun, we don't usually have problems with it, but we don't like to do it because, I mean, we vacuum
but
very, very lightly, obviously, because it's still messy, but and you'll hear people talk about the alcohol torch.
Please don't.
I will always tell you, no.
Please don't.
You can use your wife, your daughter, your girlfriend's hair dryer. You can use a heat gun.
You can use a lighter if you know how to use it and not get soot on the wrap.
Don't use a lighter. Just it's so easy to get soot on the wrap, and then you're pissed. But alcohol torch, a lot of rod builders have lost their entire
a butane lighter
shop.
Will work fine.
But that's just not something we personally recommend.
Propane torch, even better.
Do you guys have any questions about how to get rid of microbubbles? Like any specific thing you know? Who? What? If you've got a coat that is... Sorry, Chris, I just saw a question. If you've got a coat that's really bumpy because you have rod failure or, or dryer failure or whatever,
you can definitely sand that.
You can sand, but the way that I do mine, I would have to continue to keep adding coats before I could sand. Because right now, if I try to sand, I'd sand the stars off and I'd sand the thread away. Because it's such a thin coat. Usually, the fourth coat is when we can sand. I have gone upwards of 6 coats. But if you're on your second coat and you've got some rough spots and you've got good coverage, you can totally sand if you need to. Just be careful.
Yeah, don't go hitting the threads.
Yeah, don't sand.
You can honestly just use a razor blade and take those bumps off.
Yeah, if you've got
and then just
humps,
knock the edges off with a 200, 400 grit sandpaper or something like that. And 2,000 grit's going to do nothing but kind of polish it. Will spinning it at a quicker RPM get rid of bubbles?
No.
Only if you spin it fast enough to sling the epoxy off.
And I've had that happen. You don't want an epoxy facial. It's not okay. It's not fun. It's not fun to clean up. It's just a very angry situation. Don't spin it so fast it starts coming off of the rod. And you'll notice as soon as you get too much on there and you spin it too fast, you'll start to see a string come off. You better run or take your foot off the pedal because it's going to get you.
Ooh, you almost had it. It's going to get you.
Ooh, you almost had it. But when I'm spinning them, I mean, you guys saw I'm spinning it pretty fast, but if I start to see it's trying to lift off, I slow it down. Because sometimes my foot gets, it gets heavy and it wants to put the pedal on the floor. Or if you sneeze in mid application, that'll happen too. And then once we get a rod that is got the 5 coats on it, everybody's been asking about our sanding and polishing technique. I know you guys are probably like, what the hell, people? But we will show you. We showed.
Every time we get one done, it's got to go.
Yeah, it's got to go. So we don't have time. We forget. We did go over the polishing technique at the gathering.
Which, if you come to that,
maybe you'll see one. Maybe we'll hold that key hostage.
have to come.
Just kidding. But when we get one that's of the level, like Kevin's from Get Bit, he's actually the next rod I've got to put epoxy on tonight. That one will get sanded more than likely. But it just kind of depends. Right now, the epoxy's looking glass clear, so at this point, I won't need to sand. So as long as it keeps that consistent look, then we'll be fine. We won't have to.
Does acetone increase drying time?
No.
Not that we've noticed.
The acetone evaporates very rapidly. So it's not staying in your epoxy as long as you may think it might. The only reason why it has a slower curing issue is if you have it multiple layers, the epoxy in the or the acetone in the first layer, you know, building up. But so there's like Benjamin Jubanski and a couple other the science guys in the group could explain that better. What? Oh, I know, it's been doing that. I don't know why it's making noise. This is every once in a while. Usually it's when a thing's too tight.
Is there a difference between 6 RPM and 8 RPM?
How many RPMs is this?
That one's running, I'm sorry, 6 and 18. Or is it just preference? Like, you talking about a noticeable difference?
And are we talking about it in application, drying?
That's going to drive me bananas.
Well, that's why I put it on at night, because you don't notice it. It just kind of
squeaks. And the
squeaks.
dust bunnies go to sleep. Mr. Lizard takes care of them.
Mm-hmm. That's why I can take off now.
I want to give him a name.
Every time I come in here at lunch, he's sitting right there on the carpet sunbathing.
Yeah, I walked towards him. He just kind of looked at me like...
I walked over him before, and he's just been like, alright, whatever. She don't mess with me.
Is there a physical difference? The one you're watching right now is the fastest setting on the Alps.
Okay.
The CPW turns at 4, and our drum dryer turns at 12. We use every single one of them. I want to say the Alps is like a 4, 8, 12 maybe. I don't know the exact settings for the Alps. I know this one turns, it's on the faster setting.
So, let's move it to
the slowest.
That's the slowest.
I can tell you how fast it is if y'all want to sit here and wait, but I'll figure that out
But that's
over
the
the weekend
slowest.
and let you know what all of them are. But
That's the
we
middle.
use all of them, and we haven't noticed a difference as far as how the epoxy turns out.
And the only thing that made a drastic difference was our application of it.
Yeah, and it's usually that case with everyone.
And the fast.
Because the machines are going to do what they're supposed to do.
And epoxy itself is self-leveling.
To a point.
To a point. You can't put it on there like a mountain and expect it to flatten out to a plateau. It's just not going to work. The thicker the coats, we had crappy results. The thinner the coats, and adding a tiny bit of acetone in the first one, we had phenomenal results. We like it. We're going to stick with it. We might try a few things every once in a while just to see, but we found something that worked for us, and we're going to roll with it.
And Bobby, I think it comes down to personal preference. I've seen some guys post where they have this asininely high dryer. Some people have a variable speed where I don't know what they use it for, but in my opinion, it's just personal preference as to what speed you want. Get them both. Try one out. Rebel Hall, have y'all explained how to get those razor sharp edges when you epoxy?
Oh, you guys kind of missed that when I was putting it on, I bet. Because I just kind of stopped here. I'm done with that guide wrap. Alright, we'll slide that. We'll slide that over.
To?
Where they can see the edge.
Oh, okay. Which edge?
This one.
Over here?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So, let's just pretend that, you know, we're just starting over.
Let me get this adjusted.
The great thing about Aftcoat is it's still pliable right now, even though we've been talking for a little bit. Now, at this point,
I can see.
I can't see my
No.
brush. Like, that drip's been hanging out on the brush. I wouldn't work with this on a... typically. Usually it's very liquid, it flows really well.
But just to show...
But in this example, here we go. Alright, so what I do is I start away from the edge. And I slide it very slowly that way. This stuff's not going to move as easy as it should because it's starting to set up. And I keep pushing it. And right now I've got too much right there. And I just take it and I push it over the edge. It's easier to get a straight line when you're on speed than anything else. And you end up with, see if I can get it to turn really slow, a straight line. And what I've started doing recently is with every epoxy coat, I'll go just a tiny bit further over.
Yeah.
Just a tiny bit. Just
and you can also tape it.
You can tape it. I suck with the tape, so I don't use that method. But now I've got to...
Every time I've tried to tape it, it slings a spot of it.
Okay.
And the good part is, if you mess up and like jump, just take a little bit of denatured and whoop,
Yeah.
wipe it off.
Fix it right then. Don't wait until you get done to go back and fix it.
Have we ever added alcohol? Nope, can't say we have. Not on purpose. We've always done acetone.
No, we don't even have alcohol out here.
Yeah, we do.
Where?
Do you not see the big elephant in the room?
Oh, the denatured?
Where's the lid?
Here. I don't know why it's over here, but it is.
Sure it's not the acetone lid?
I'm positive. The acetone lid is the pop lid. Pop, pop.
I bet it's all gone. Does anybody have any questions?
Betty, you fool.
Oh, what no?
Do, 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 do.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
See all kinds of stuff in the camera. Looks like we need to clean our lathe or our wrapper. That's gross.
What's that?
Look at it, it's nasty.
Oh.
Ew. Thumb tried to touch me. Ew.
Please.
Alright, well, thanks for watching. I guess we're going to call it a night. We shall see you later.
She sells